those of you looking for episode 6, that will drop tomorrow. But tonight is a special occasion because for the first time since we covered Nemesis last year, my first son and first co-host is here to talk about the first half of Strange New Worlds opening season. It's Connor. Hey, Connor.
Hey, you can't keep a good thing down. I always have said, I'm a bit of a rolling stone, but I'm back, baby.
Yeah, I missed you. I haven't seen you in a year. So.
That's true, because we only see each other when we do the podcast.
Periodically, yeah.
'Cause I'll be like, Dad, you want to hang out? And it's like, does it have anything to do with the podcast? No, Dad, I just want to see you for another time.
No. Not interested. It's all about the bottom line.
It's all he doesn't want to see me unless I've got the sponsor money.
And sponsors have been running dry. We haven't had a sponsor since you left. So,
oh my God.
Looking back is probably I probably shouldn't have put that burden on a 12-year-old to find us a way to make this
not a wise
financially
decision.
successful.
I mean, you guys used to live in a mansion, and now you've kind of downgraded.
Yeah. So, what you up to? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been away at community college. I live at home, but but I've mainly been doing college and watching reruns of Seinfeld. That's not true. I don't watch reruns. I watch Netflix. Oh my God. I've been doing adulting and watching Seinfeld. But I'm excited to get back into that hot new podcast scene that the kids are also wild about.
Yeah. So what have you watched? So for Modern Trek, if I believe you will have watched the first first 2 seasons of Discovery plus the first 4 episodes of season 3 is where you're at. First season of Picard and
I've watched
for 2 episodes?
First 2 episodes of season 2 Picard. So with Strange New Worlds, this has been the one that I've just been the most excited about because it's kind of a return to form. So I'm not a hater on Discovery or Picard. I just think they're loathsome. No, I they're fine. I like Discovery quite a bit. I haven't finished season 3 of Discovery, but I like it, the direction it's going. I think it's really original and interesting. Picard is probably my least favorite of the shows, and I like that they've brought back Seven and a lot of those other kind of characters. I think that's all really cool. But I think my problem with modern Trek shows is that there isn't any room to breathe. Every single episode is forwarding some sort of narrative arc, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not what I want from a Trek show. And I know a lot of people complain that modern Trek is like, it's too preachy. It's like, have you ever watched a Star Trek episode? Please watch The Drumhead and tell me that is not the most preachy episode ever, which is not a bash on that episode.
Is that the episode with Mick Fleetwood?
That is an episode with Mick Jagger playing Captain Picard, singing "You Can't Get What You Want" at the Admiral lady who wants to start a witch hunt. Anyway, so, Star Trek has always been preachy. What's that episode where Captain Kirk is reading the Declaration of Independence to savages? Like, what? Absolutely absurd. So with modern Trek, my problem actually is that it isn't preachy. I mean, I like, obviously there's the unsaid theme of diversity that's always been there in Star Trek, but it is the least political kind of era of Trek. I think the most political thing they've said in these shows thus far was like, hey, you know what? Diversity's good. And if that's like a hot take in 2022, I don't think we're doing well as a civilization. But other than that, I don't think they're preachy enough. It's cool that they're focusing on bigger sci-fi storytelling. But what I want from Star Trek is preachy camp. And with Strange New Worlds, I was so excited for it because it's kind of bringing what I love about Deep Space Nine. But I would even say more, because Deep Space Nine's episodes are mostly standalone. But, they also tie into episodes like seasons from then. But Strange New Worlds, the characters have progression and like they carry on, like the things that happened last episode don't just erase themselves, which is in rewatch. I've been watching a lot of, besides Married with Children and Seinfeld, I've been watching a lot of Trek, because believe it or not, I'm a fan of the franchise, and I've been watching Next Gen. And I notice I have a watching habit with Next Gen that I don't really have with the other shows, especially Voyager and Enterprise, because I don't watch those. That is a joke, Voyager fans. That was a joke. Oof. I'm really not ingratiating myself with the people.
But Next Gen is what you're focusing on.
Next Gen. We're talking about Next Gen. With Next Gen, I have a viewing habit, which is I'll just be like, hey, this is an amazing episode of Next Gen. I'll watch that. But there's a lot of episodes I don't watch. With Next Gen, I either watch the best of all time, 10 out of 10s, 8s, that kind of stuff, or I'm watching Encounter at Farpoint or Sub Rosa. So there's really no in between. Like, I'm not really rewatching A Fistful of Datas very often. Yeah. And it's because these episodes are largely inconsequential and they're fine. Like, they're serviceable, but they don't have the courage to be boring. Or I'm saying they don't have the courage to be terrible, but they're just boring.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just don't matter. And so, it's harder for me to kind of get invested in Next Gen. Whereas like the original series, even though most of the time there's no continuity between episodes, they're really interchangeable for the most part. I can just binge the original series because it's just classic after classic after classic until you hit the third season where it's not worth watching. So, that's where I've been. So Strange New Worlds is really exciting to me because I knew that this would be a great show the moment there was a Fox News article about how Star Trek went woke. And I'm like, have you ever seen a Star Trek episode? Because in Deep Space Nine, Bar Association, they literally quote Karl Marx. So I don't know, like this whole like Star Trek used to be so good before it got political. Like, oh, it's like the 60s. Like, Star Trek was so good before Gene Roddenberry got woke. Started putting black people on the bridge. I'm not racist. Anyway, so Strange New Worlds, super exciting, and it's a return to form, so we have more standalone episodes, but the standalone episodes carry over to new ones, and I like that. Because honestly, like with new Trek shows, I don't dislike them. I really don't. I just don't have a ton of interest in them story-wise, because it's always like, this season, the galaxy is ending. It's like, oh, again? Oh, no, but there's a big bad guy from the future, and he's in a cool suit, and, the time has been changed. And it's like, again? It's like, only this fossil and his crew of newbies can save the galaxy from certain doom. Like, oh, again? It's like, and it's fine. Like, some people treat these new shows like Kurtzman is like some sort of mastermind, some sort of Machiavellian puppet master who's like, yes, now I will destroy your favorite franchises. Like he's just, he just like signs off on checks. Like, this guy has nothing to do with these shows, but they treat him like the devil. And, these shows are fine. For what they are, they're good. They look good. They're acted well. I think the scripts are kind of iffy sometimes, especially on the first season of Picard. I didn't like the there's a lot of things about season 1 Picard I didn't care for. Like, basically, like the Federation are using androids as like slave labor, which does not seem like the Federation to me. I was not interested by the Reaper-esque, like, evil tentacle robots from Planet X or whatever they were, from another dimension. Were they from another dimension? I don't remember.
Unclear.
There's a rift, like, they're just something bad, something nebulously bad who want to wipe out all life, and then Picard's like an android, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you have back pain and you're still gonna die. Like, why? Picard's awesome. Make him immortal. Make him 40 years younger. He's an android. You can do what you want. You know, like it's just, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like I have my problems with these shows, but I don't think that like, I'm not going to compare it to like 9/11, like some of the people who review these things do.
Well, we have left out 2 shows. One of them you haven't watched yet, which is Prodigy.
Yeah, that seems like I'm old. I'm too old for that.
It's pretty good. The other one being Lower Decks.
Lower Decks is great.
And you're caught up. You've seen both seasons.
I have seen every episode of that show. I thank you for mentioning that because I forgot because I have the memory of a goldfish. But until Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks was unironically my favorite new Star Trek show. And it's strange because that was the one I was excited for the least.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks like trash. This looks like a Rick and Morty ripoff, and I don't even like that show. I think I liked it when I was like 14, but that explains a lot.
We all did.
Especially you.
Well, we all liked it when you were 14.
And I was like, this is a lame Rick and Morty ripoff, and I have no interest in it. And then you're like, it's really good. You should watch it. And I watched one episode. I'm like, more. I want more of this. This is great. And it's a consistently really funny show. I like the cameos are very funny and tastefully done. I think my favorite is probably the Q one where they're playing like a chess match because that's so beautifully Q. And so until Strange New Worlds, I'm like, this is great.
And now when it comes to Strange New Worlds, right now you've only seen the premiere episode.
And I adored it. I thought it was amazing.
So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna play things a little bit different. We'll get your thoughts on that premiere here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Before jumping into the next ones. So we're gonna go old school Star Trek Wars and have an old fashioned Trek marathon today. What differs from the past though is we're going to stop between every episode, and we're watching the first 5 episodes. We're stopping midway. We're gonna stop between every episode to get your thoughts on it before moving on to the next.
This ain't your daddy's Star Trek Wars.
And then once we've watched all 5, we'll come back with an overall impression from you too and see how you're feeling halfway through. We'll also get a much requested fashion report by our very own Jocelyn later on in the program. So before we jump into the rest of the episodes, let's talk about the one that you have seen.
Oh my
God. The series
God.
premiere, Strange New Worlds.
I was amazed. It was so good. So I have been excited for Strange New Worlds ever since it was announced. I love the casting reveal. Fantastic. It was so exciting to see all these characters who got one episode over 60 years ago kind of come back with the same actors. Actually, I think oh wait, sorry, that's insensitive. I realized that they are no longer with us. I apologize. I also want to apologize for comments I've made on the podcast regarding the Irish. I do not think you don't all float on to America in potato baskets. I want to apologize for my Fairhaven comments.
The Connor apology tour.
I was younger. I didn't know any better. So, what were we talking about?
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds, yeah. The insensitive comment I made. So it was so exciting to see number 1 and Dr. Mbenga. That was really cool because I really liked those characters. And, they got axed after the man trap, which should have been called the cast trap.
Uh-huh.
The audience is laughing along.
I got it. I put it in.
Oh, good. So, and it was so exciting for that cast reveal to me. So, with the episode itself, I loved it because it was preachy at the end, and it was topical and actually about something human. I like that, it's part of that radical hope philosophy of Star Trek that is so appealing. And I think my problem with modern Trek is that when I say it's too dark, I don't mean like, oh, there's violence. Have you ever seen Conspiracy? Guy's face literally blows up. People eat bugs. It's disgusting. so that's not my problem with modern Trek. When I say it's too dark, I mean like the Federation just aren't. They're just not like the same. I think it's because it's easier like nowadays because where everyone is so cynical to believe that like nothing will ever really get better. That's just easier to kind of write that than the Star Trek kind of radical hope future. And my problem isn't necessarily with the Deep Space Nine approach of like there are people in Starfleet who are willing to like do a coup because they think that's the right thing to do. I think that's really good. Like that's a great thing Deep Space Nine did was make Starfleet and humanity more fallible. Because in like Next Gen and the original series, they're always right, and we're they encounter aliens who are a clear stand-in for some group of humanity who the Federation can critique. And of course, it's all about punching people in costumes. That's what Star Trek was all about until it got woke. But with modern shows, they don't talk about current issues, and I know for some people that's like appealing, but to me, it's like watching Mad Men or Breaking Bad and only coming out of it thinking, "Wow, Don Draper's a really cool guy. I wish modern men were more like him." Like you have utterly missed the point.
Why is Skylar so awful?
Why just let your husband cook meth, woman? Shut your yap. This Bron won't let her husband cook meth. She's clearly hysterical. So, and that's something I liked about this episode is, I know we're going to talk about, not really about politics, but just like they mentioned the January 6th insurrection, political polarization, and they don't even say like Pike isn't like MAGA sucks. Trump should be, arrested. He doesn't even say anything. He just mentions that like, there's a civil war and, there's, political division and ties that in with the Star Trek timeline of, we nuke each other into the Stone Age. And that was enough for people to be like, what? Star Trek's getting topical? When has that ever happened?
Do one insurrection on the Capitol and you're the bad guys.
And I loved that about this episode is that it is relevant and it is, it has a message, and it's that, we need to come together because the only alternative is Armageddon. Like he says, so go to war. And like his speech at the end where he just says, screw it, I'm going to tell these disgusting savages who are just like humanity in the current time, what's up? I'm down with that. And this is another reason why the Prime Directive is a piece of garbage. Screw the Prime Directive. It is a waste of time. And this is a better violation of it than Kirk like reading the Declaration of Independence, which doesn't even make any sense. So I thought it was a great episode. I love all the characters. I loved Nurse Chapel. Great uniform. I love the uniforms. I think they should bring back the motion picture uniforms. That's my Star Trek hot take that the woke scold left are just not ready to hear.
Just beige and bulge.
Bulge?
Yeah.
Bulge, my favorite color. Bulge. It's probably Janeway's favorite color. Like, what color is your lungs? Bulge. It's not a color. So I loved her. Like, she's just, she has a great personality, and I think all the characters are really well established in this first episode. So as pilots go, it's probably one of my favorite ones, because I'll say this about the new Trek shows, even with all my problems with them, with the exception of Picard, I think their first seasons in terms of quality are way better in terms of consistency than Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Void. Okay, so all of them after the original series. So, and I'll give them that. And I think that this first episode was incredible, and I'm so excited to watch the next ones.
I'm excited too. I'm almost more excited to watch these with you a second time than I was watching it when it premiered. I'm really excited. And I know everybody else is excited to hear your thoughts too. So maybe we should take a stop here and watch episode 2 titled Children of the Comet.
Oh my God, is this a Children of the Corn pastiche?
Is that what you think this one is?
I am the word and the giver of his laws. It's an Isaac reference. I think I used to make children. Remember on the I'm sorry, I'm doing this real quick. Remember on the podcast, I do like random I was like 14. I was like doing random references to properties nobody knew.
See, do I remember you making random references on the podcast?
Yeah, I'm just asking. Like,
Connor, I do remember.
Hey, remember we're gonna become like the Family Guy of podcasts. Hey, remember the time,
Connor? That was 80% of our podcast.
Was me going, this reminds me of this Warhammer thing I just found out about yesterday. Like, oh God. Anyway, we'll be back.
All right, we'll be right back after watching Children of the Comet.
Ooh.
All right, we are back, having watched episode 2, Children of the Comet, Connor.
How did I get here? That was amazing. That was, speaking of amazing, I don't know if you know this, but I just watched episode 2 of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet.
What a coincidence.
Because did you just watch that again?
Let's talk about that then.
Let's do that. So, I loved it. I think I enjoyed the first episode more, but this is still great. I love Uhura. I didn't talk on that. Talk about some of the other cast members in the first rambling part of this, where I'm just like, hey, Married with Children, also Seinfeld. Oh, hey, here's the thing I don't like about Star Trek. But I really do like a lot of the characters on the show. This is something I think New Trek does so much better than previous shows, maybe with the exception of I would actually say Deep Space Nine and even Voyager, actually. Now, and that is that I feel like with a lot of the other shows, the quote unquote side characters who are part of the main cast have nothing to do. So in Next Gen, sure, sometimes they'll throw LeVar Burton a bone and have him fall in love with a hologram. That's to mixed results in terms of the quality of the stuff they'll give the side characters. Or Beverly. I think Beverly does have some good episodes. There's also an episode where she's a transphobe and where she falls in love with the ghost who's been making the whoopee with her family for generations.
But cause and effect.
Right? Which is, I actually rewatched that recently.
Oh, did you?
Great episode, yeah. So, and I feel like New Trek is doing this really well, where the characters actually get to do things. Because a problem with like the Next Gen movies, if you're not, I almost said Kirk. If you're not, well, okay, in Generations, but if you're not Picard, Data, or Riker, you basically get nothing. You get a line here or there, but otherwise you just sit around, smile a bit. You don't get to do anything unless you're Troy, in which case you get mind violated. So I was really happy we got an Uhura-centered episode. I like the way that they expand her character. I think it's so, like, all the characters who are back from the original series and from the Man Trap are dealt with so tastefully. And I'm really warming up to, I don't know the name of the actor, so I apologize, but the guy who plays Spock, I really like his performance. And I was talking to you during the picture about that. I was like, I really like how he's not doing an impression.
Yes.
Because I was about to say, well, if I played like Kirk, I mean like William Shatner's James
if you were
T.
cast
Kirk.
as a young Kirk.
Yeah, because I look a lot like William Shatner. I would probably be like, oh, egads, oh, Spock, oh, Bones, oh, wait, you're not here yet. Oh,
Right, you're just doing an impression.
it would be terrible, because to me, that's what Kirk sounds like, even though he's, let him die, Spock. Oh. Yeah, speaking of which, hey, quick side note, I want them to make movies out of his Star Trek books. That would be amazing. Please do that.
With Shatner reprising the role.
I want them to see him like digitally de-aged with a walker fighting the Borg Queen. That's what I want. Anyway, so Uhura, right? I believe that
Ethan Peck is the actor who plays
Ethan
Spock.
Peck. He is fantastic. Because again, he's not doing like an impression. And I think that all the characters have been dealt with so tastefully. And Pike is quickly becoming one of my favorite Star Trek captains, period. And I've watched 2 episodes of this show, and he is already like an amazing captain. And he's come a long way. He's not, he used to be very misogynistic, because now he's inviting women to dinner parties. And that was in the old days before Star Trek got woke. He's like, I don't like women on my bridge. My God, Bones, there's women on my bridge. Oh. And so there's some character development. I like that. But he has such an interesting persona as a character. He's very he likes honesty. He holds dinners with cadets, or not the cadets, but a
bunch of people, including cadets.
Cadets and a lot of the staff. Mm-hmm. I love the Enar. Anar. Let's be clear, all right? I don't care what the woke school left has to say. They're called the Anar, and you can't stop me from saying it, you SJWs. I don't even care if I get canceled.
You SNWs.
I'm saying what I'm thinking, brother. Ain't nobody gonna tell me how to live.
Hell yeah, brother.
Welcome to Star Trek Wars, everybody. I'm back. I don't know if you can tell. So I love the Enar engineer. I think he's great. His whole thing about them calling it an impairment, he's up to superior, was hilarious. I love the makeup. I love the designs of all the classic kind of races, minus that Ferengi picture I've seen. Oh my! Is it from Discovery?
There is a Ferengi in Discovery.
That looked whack. I haven't seen the episode, but I've seen.
Yeah. The actor that plays Hemmer, the Anar, is actually legally blind.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Is he also legally blonde?
He's a little dirty blonde.
Kachiga. That's my new catchphrase.
Let's workshop that.
Bazing! But that's really cool, though. I really like that. That's part of what makes Trek so great. Anyway, so with the actual plot, I quite enjoyed this. We're going back to basics of Star Trek's oldest enemy. It's not the Borg. It's not the Gorn. It's organized religion. And I always think that's funny. And I remember, I think it was Charlie X. I was 11 or something. I'm like, I don't like all the Kirk versus God stuff. Now I'm a Scientologist, so, I have
Charlie
different
X
views.
Might have been the last time we saw Uhura and Spock sing together.
That's true. Before Plato's Stepchildren, the greatest. Oh, I don't know if she's singing that one.
No, Spock gets his own ballad in that for sure.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers that for one of the first interracial kisses on television, but no one remembers it for the equally groundbreaking scene where a little person is riding on William Shatner's back while he neighs like a pony.
And Spock sings Bitter Dreads.
It broke new ground. The plot. So I really like this episode. I was talking about the shepherds.
Mm-hmm.
The shepherds. I quite like them. It's a good return to form to Star Trek's oldest foe. And what did he say? It's the shepherds, more like zealots, or zealots more like, I say. And I was like, oh, that's a good one.
But also interesting twist at the end where whether you like what they're doing or not, there was some preordained stuff with that comet.
That's true.
And a surprise twist.
It could be Xenu.
Yeah.
This is a Scientologist podcast. We've been funded by the church for years. Just full disclosure. But I did think that was kind of an interesting ending because I didn't do the full next gen is it Who Watches the Watchers, where Picard's like, you want me to throw them back into the age of darkness and superstition? No.
Yeah.
It was a bit more nuanced, and I think that is something I quite like about these new shows. I'm not against what Picard said in Who Watches the Watchers, per se. But it was I'm forgetting the Discovery episode where they go to that kind of it's not a commune, but that place,
New Eden,
yeah. And
one of the best Discovery episodes,
definitely. And some of the characters, I was raised religious, or my mom was this, my dad was that, that kind of thing. And I like that quite a bit. That there's a lot more nuance with belief. This reminds me, actually, this is the only time I will positively say anything about Babylon 5. I'm forgetting which episode it was, but it was the one where it's like, here are the people of Earth, and then it's just, a lot of people, different, faiths and backgrounds, and I really like that Babylon 5 thing. But anyway, I really like the Shepherds. I think it's cool. They have, super advanced design. I like their ship. It's not just a big rectangle. And with the singing part, I thought it was just really fun and really kind of unique. I've just never seen anything like it in a Star Trek episode. I was disappointed it did not become a musical. Although I'm surprised Star Trek has never done a musical before. Like I'm waiting for like a, you would think in TNG there'd be like a Q thing where he forces it to be a musical.
Right.
Because I would love that. But that was really cool. I love that Uhura's backstory is that she doesn't really know she wants to be in Starfleet. I think that's really, really cool and subversive. And I'm all about that. So I think this episode was simply fantastic. Yeah.
Okay. So not as strong as the pilot, but super good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about Children of the Comet?
I was disappointed by the lack of Children of the Corn references.
I thought you might be. Well,
yeah, but it's not the best Stephen King story out there. We all know that's the Tommyknockers, which is not a 1940s slang word for breasts. That is, in fact, an actual story that he wrote.
Well, let's see if you like the next episode of Stranger Worlds called Children of the Knockers.
But before we do that, we have a sponsor.
Oh, thank God. Connor, we're going to get paid today.
I'm bringing in the dough. $13.
Yes.
$13 dues. All right. Things have not been great for old Donnie recently. He's kind of down in the dumps. So to make himself feel better, he started his own podcast, which I'm producing because I have no ethics. And it's just called Trumpcast. He's not really sure what it is, but there's a microphone in front of him. So we have hours of material. Here's just some random clips. Hey folks, it's me. I know you've all really missed the sound of my beautiful melodic voice, and here's my Trumpcast. Hey folks, I'm Donald Trump. I'm a media mogul. I'm a savior. And I love Star Trek. Ask me, you sir, ask me a Star Trek question. You right there. Ask me a Star Trek question. And I'll know it. I'll know the answer.
What's your favorite Enterprise episode?
I can't say. That's very personal. I'd love to tell you folks. I really would, but it's very personal to me. I love Enterprise. I'm almost religious when it comes to Enterprise, really. Nobody knows more about Enterprise than I do, but it's just so personal. It's so personal. I can't. Yes, what's your question?
Who's your favorite Federation president?
Trump. I started the Federation. That's what the fake news, the new Trek shows, they got woke, and they go broke. All right, what they won't tell you is, Donald Trump started the Federation after the crooked Democrats, they want to work with the Andorians. And I'm like, who are these guys? We're getting a bad deal. The Vulcans, they think they're so smart, they're so logical, they're pointy ears, they're knife ears. When the Vulcans come to Earth, they're not sending their best, all right? Frankly, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Now, on Trumpcast, we like to mix things up a bit, I got great guests. I got the greatest guests, like John Lennon's Ghost. It was a great time. Here's an excerpt from that. John, I love the Beatles, the great Beatles. Yellow Submarine, very, very underrated. It's my favorite Beatles album. I loved the songs. My favorite song was a song you wrote, and it was great. What was that? I heard that you got canceled. You got canceled by the woke left. What'd you say? Oh, the Beatles are bigger than Jesus. Well, you know what?
I can relate to that because I'm also physically proportionally bigger than Jesus, because he was kind of emaciated because he, was around like 2,000 years ago. But I'm a big guy, so I'm physically much bigger than Jesus. And you know who else featured on this great? This is a segue. I got another guest. I got another great guest. I was talking to Susanna Drinkwater, the great Susanna Drinkwater, and she said, Donald, I want you and your tremendity to bring Goofy on the podcast. We need him. The people demand him, and I love the manga crowd. I love the people. I love them. They're great. And I was like, okay, we're going to get Goofy on the podcast because recently he was on an episode of the Great Star Trek Wars, which is the most tremendous podcast I've ever listened to. Connor and Jeremy and the other ones whose names I don't know. They're amazing. And I don't know their names because they're diversity hires. Like Jordan. He wouldn't have gotten on that show if he wasn't a Texan. But they needed to fill their woke diversity quotas. Anyway, Star Trek Wars. He was on the show, and he was talking about Rocket Man and how they made Elton John gay. And it's a travesty, so back from his recent cancellation by the woke squad left, I bring it on Goofy. I'm bringing on Goofy Goof.
Hey there, Donald. Nice to meet you.
Tell me, Goofy. Tell me, baby. Kiss me. But also, tell me what it's been like ever since you revealed the shattering truth that the Titanic was in fact an inside job.
Well, it hasn't been easy, that's for sure. Mickey won't talk to me. Neither will Donald, not you, Donald. Disney won't put me in any of their movies anymore.
Well, that sounds rough. I was on a great show you would have been great on. It was called The Celebrity Apprentice. And I was a celebrity, and it's like The Sorcerer's Apprentice, but I'm not a wizard.
Well, that sounds mighty interesting. Say, you want to know what I think of 9/11?
And finally, I have the great Zachary Reed. The great Zachary Reed. He's a man who loves me, and he loves, things. He loves the library, ZZ Top. I'm making stuff up. I don't know anything about him, but I know that he's a great American patriot. And he couldn't be on tonight because he has kids, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta take care of my kids." You know what? I will never forget this. I will never forget how you slighted me, and I'll always hate you. You have never experienced hate until you've met me. I'll hate you forever. This is a great impression. Goodbye.
Trumpcast, everyone. Available now on all sorts of places that aren't Twitter, YouTube. I think it's on
OAN.
It's on OAN. It's on what's that one where all like the Nazis go because they got kicked off of YouTube? I don't know. I'm forgetting what it's called.
Look for it there.
Look for it there.
I'm surprised at the amount of Star Trek he talks.
Oh, I have Donald Trump in the studio with me.
No, you don't. That was not authorized.
Okay, fine. I know what I'm not wanted. I'll leave.
Yeah. Well, he's a big fan. You have a Donald Trump lunchbox right here where he's fighting a Gorn. Trump versus the Gorn. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. Well, he's a negotiator. So I think he's going to negotiate with the Gorn. He's like,
you know what? I don't want to kill him. I won't do it. All right?
And that was a great episode.
Kirk was a negotiator on Priceline.
Yeah. So, we will do anything for money. And we don't care. Kim Jong-un could come on our podcast. And if he paid us, we'd allow it.
We do get one download from North Korea a month.
That's true, and you know who that is.
The
only person with an internet connection. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
We're big fans, sir.
We are the Dennis Rodmans of Colorado. Please, we will come over to
I've often said that.
the Reed family. We're just like one big Dennis Rodman. Just you know, we will, you know, we will move to North Korea. We have promised that several times. And we, unlike most politicians, we follow through.
Thank you, Connor, for keeping that money pipeline
Of course.
flowing.
And for keeping it real.
And for keeping it real. Are you ready to watch the third episode of Strange New Worlds?
That depends. Are you ready to watch it with me?
I am absolutely ready. An episode called Ghosts of Illyria.
Ooh. Is Zach Bagans starring in this one?
Yep, guess, spoiler alert, they won't find any. Tune in next week. We'll be right back. All right, we are back from watching episode 3, Ghosts of Illyria. Connor, what'd you think?
Oh my god, this show's great. I loved it. This has been probably my favorite first season of any Star Trek show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I've only watched 3 episodes. So maybe the next episode I'll hate and it's trash.
Could be.
And anyone who likes it is a garbage human.
But still won't stop at the fact that it's the best first 3 episodes.
That is numerically true. I loved this. I really like, this is the kind of Star Trek I want. And you know, it feels like it was just made for me, you know, like it's speaking to me. And I just think that's gorge. As the kids say.
Do they?
I'm sure they do, along with words like farvy and far out. These
That one I get.
these are things that the today generation are saying. So there's a lot to cover. Number one, I was disappointed with the fact that not one character was screaming light isn't real and like turning on lights and coughing on people. You know, like, why didn't they just like zip over to a Federation outpost to prove that this isn't as bad as everyone thinks it is?
You know, the light infection will go away. Like these things go away.
So that was, you know, 0 out of 10. If I was scoring these.
Sure.
But the whole the revelation, the dark secret, the number one is secretly an Illyrian. Spoilers, sorry. If anyone doesn't know, I'm so sorry. Was really fantastic, and the whole like the Federation doesn't want these people because they're genetically augmented, and you know people hate the augments because of the awful augment trilogy.
Of course.
Which is, I think, a justifiable reason to hate this loathsome scum. We are anti-augment on this podcast.
Crazy enough, the Illyrians have actually had one on-screen appearance
What?
prior to this, and that was in an episode of Enterprise.
Holy crap. Which one?
It was in the Expanse in the season 3. It was a Xindi arc. They didn't show any sign. This was the guy who Casey Biggs, who played Damar.
Yeah.
He guest starred in this as an Illyrian, and in that they didn't show any signs of augments, but the Enterprise needed to desperately get to like this Xindi council meeting, and they didn't have a warp core, so they actually stole this innocent ship's warp core in order to make that meeting they had to make with the Xindi council,
And
left them stranded.
And those guys want to join the Federation.
Right.
What a deal. And these people have been wiped out by a disease because they were trying to demodify their mographers.
Yep.
To join the Federation. I'm speaking in Star Trek speak, which is highly scientific stuff.
Yes.
They're like, well, maybe if we forwarded main power to the southwest deflectors, maybe that could reboot the deflector array. Like, well, of course. You could just say anything like that in Star Trek, and my response is, well, of course. Yeah. So, but that revelation I think was really, really interesting, and also kind of shows something that Mbenga was talking about, which is, you know, there's just new bigotries. These people aren't tied to like to Khan, or like the genetically modified super conquerors. They're just peaceful people, and they're actually, you know, they don't terraform planets.
Yeah.
They adapt themselves to be on that planet. I'm like, that's really interesting and really sad. Like, these people want to join the Federation, but the Federation doesn't like people like them.
Yeah, the Federation bans them because of what humans did.
Yeah, funny how that works out. So with the whole infection that like everyone's addicted to light,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was really interesting. Like the whole like disease, how is it spread? It's through light. So it's like that's a rough customer, you know. And I will say the only thing that did not work for me was Ahura does not show up again after like she's immune. She didn't get it, or not that she's immune, but she was in darkness, and her bunkmates are lunatics, like praising at a sun in their room.
Yeah.
Unlike how you're a lunatic by praising your son in this room.
Yes.
And then we never see her again ever in the Star Trek franchise. We
That was it.
No, we just don't see her for the rest of the episodes. Like, did she get infected? Did she just stay in a dark room the whole time? Who knows? But Dr. Mbega was kind of the big surprise for me, was how much I love his character. Like his daughter has some sort of disease, like she likes anime or something, so he keeps her in the pattern buffers. Like, that was a really interesting thing, where it's like, you know, this disease is killing her, so you're just perpetually keeping her in a pattern buffer. I wonder what that's like. Is it like a visitor situation where you're like occasionally pop out, like nothing's happened, like it's moments between.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get more into that going forward too, but it's probably something similar like that, where there's no time is passing for her, but he's getting older. Like, yeah.
Because I like that, or otherwise that must just be rough to just be like matter, just hold in a buffer. So that was really interesting, because it's like, well, you have something in the pattern buffer. And I'm like, oh god, it's like alcohol or something,
Right.
You know, like he's like, I was expecting like he had something illicit, like he had like a drug stash or something, you know, or I don't know, novel Alvin and the Chipmunk CDs.
Oof.
That's
I died that too.
banned by the Federation as like a war crime offense, you know.
Complete series of Alf.
Khan loved Alf and Alvin and the Chipmunks, so that's why it's banned. You know, he loved Christmas time was here. He'd play it every day, and the people hated him for it. But no, he's got his daughter in there, and then he's like, well, if my daughter's got to die so he can upgrade the computer, well, so be it. She's got it coming. And the number one's like, no, we'll just put her in a different program so we can upgrade the computer, and she can, not be chopped into pieces in the computer.
Win-win.
And I'm like, that's fantastic, because I feel like a lesser show, a Voyager, if you will. An Enterprise would have been like, you have to choose whether we dice up your daughter or upgrade the computer. And then, like, Janeway would have been like, chop the kid up. And then people would be defending that as if,
there's coffee in her bone marrow.
You like this coffee I made out of your daughter's bones? You like that steak? I wonder where it came from. You eat the flesh of your fellow man. This must be a very pleasant listening experience. Anyway, so one thing I love about the new Trek shows is the locations. Mm-hmm. Say what you want about the quality of the programming, but the planets, man, they feel more than like, it's not like a cave or like it's like a planet and there's mist and then there's rocks and like a purple background.
Yeah,
like it feels like you're on an alien world, and I really like that. It's more immersive, because I like when I watch the original series, I'm not really caught up on how dated it is. It wasn't like super cutting edge, but it's of its time,
right?
But that's not what I'm not watching 1960s Trek for the effects. It's like I don't watch Enterprise for the CGI. I watch it because I hate myself. Anyway, But I really like this episode. I think the characters are strong. Spock and the captain have such a great dynamic. Like this show is absolutely fantastic. So it's I think I'm so excited. So the season isn't over.
No,
How many more episodes are there going to be?
there are 10 episodes in the season. So you just watched episode 3.
Yeah. Okay.
6 have premiered at the time of this recording.
Gotcha.
But you and I have 2 more to watch.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I would highly recommend this show. I've never been this excited. I wish this was like a 21 season or 21 episode thing. I don't want to. Yeah, I want the show to turn into The Simpsons, where Captain Pike it's gone over the 10-year limit.
Right.
They found some like temporal anomaly to keep the show going before he gets turned into a sludge man. Before he gets turned into a beatbox.
Yeah.
Because, oh God, there's a conversation with number one. Maybe this happened last episode. I have the memory of a goldfish to remind me, but she's like, maybe it's possible that, the future can change. I'm like, don't do that. Don't give me hope.
Yeah, that was last episode. Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing it up now.
Because he's got those kids' names like memorized and he's checking on them.
Yeah. He has
right now they're like 10, 11, and he just knows.
He has a kid viewing screen. Seems kind of dubious for Starfleet.
It's not a nanny cam. It's just info
Yeah.
that the captain of the flagship of the Federation has.
I don't know, man. It's like you can just look up any kid like on Earth. Like
the captain can.
the Fogel cam. Like this thing seems really scary to me. That's all I'm saying.
Right? Like fast food sponsors can't, but the captain of the flagship of the Federation can.
Is there
Yeah,
fast
Starfleet.
food in the future?
I wonder if you can program like Subway sandwiches into the programming.
Oh God, that sounds disgusting. I'd rather.
Yeah, on every level.
I would rather eat a Targ. Because someone would eat this like this tastes like a Sardassian space slug,
Yeah.
not a sandwich. Come on. I mean, what's the deal with softball? I mean, it's called a softball, but it's not soft. What's the deal with
Yeah,
that?
I've been watching too much Seinfeld. Anything left to say about Ghosts of Valyria?
No. Other than when the augments are coming to our country, they're not sending our best. Their
All right.
best.
Thank you, Connor.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, we will stop this to watch episode 4 titled Memento Mori.
What? It's the
It is.
stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Latin for remember, you're going to die.
Are you serious? Oh. I was like, memento mori, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. You mean like Pike's like Italian cousin?
This is the episode where
Hey,
Pike's Italian cousin,
It's Guapo. Hey, everybody.
Guapo Pike.
A Guapo Pike.
Should be a nice, lighthearted episode you're about to walk into.
You like my data pie?
All right, we'll be back after watching this
All right.
lighthearted romp. All right, we are back from Memento Mori. Connor, was it the lighthearted romp you thought it would be?
I loved when the Gorn flayed Guapo alive. But he had a smile on his face the whole time. He's turned into a meatbag. When the moon hits your eye. It was release the Guapo cut.
Really doubling down on this, huh? It was interesting to have like Anson Mount play his cousin with a twisty mustache.
And when the other colonists are like entering the Enterprise, they're bloody and bruised and filthy, and he's wearing his chef hat and and his apron, and he's slinging pizza dough and yamba 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 ya. And it was a great episode. Release the Guapo cut. We want to see more of this great character.
And Guapo makes sense for Anson Mount because that's Spanish for handsome.
Apparently so. Anyway, this episode, at the very beginning, I felt terrible because I could not stop laughing privately because all I'm thinking about is Guapo showing up and swinging pizza and singing songs.
It wasn't as private as you thought it was.
No one else heard. Um, and I kept apologizing because I kept interrupting the first 50 minutes of the program with laughing about a character I made up 5 minutes before that. So this episode is probably my favorite.
Yes.
It is absolutely insane when they come to this colony and it's a ghost town except for an obnoxious dog. Now, if this was a real security force, they would have shot the dog on sight. But these are not real space cops, so they can't. Anyway, so when the little girls they go, and that's it.
They do that.
Bow, bow.
Terrifying.
Do you have that the what's that weird voice you used on that song? The Kailash voice.
Kailash.
Hey, bow, bow.
Anyway, so that would be great.
Yes.
Anyway, so with the girl was like, they make this. She makes a chittering noise, and I turned it down. I'm like,
Hey, yo, dude.
is this the Gorn? Are the Gorn a coming with Guapo in tow? He's like, I changed the sides. Anyway, so maybe I should stop doing that character for sensitivity reasons.
For so many reasons.
Yeah, I'll switch to an Irish character for the next episode, I promise. So anyway, I was like, oh God, is this the Gorn? And then I'm like, oh, the Gorn, they're the silly camp, it's a guy in a rubber costume, double, and Kirk's doing the double fist punch, and, it's just a good old romp. It's like, no, they skim people alive, feed live captives to their raptor young. Like, oh my God. It's pretty rough, you could say.
Yeah.
The Pike is, again, I think a contender for one of my favorite captains. He's such an interesting character. What I like about him is how clever he is, with some of the situations, with the second episode, it's like, well, how would have the various captains dealt with it? A lot of people say well, Kirk would have had a fist fight with him, but that's not really the case most of the time. It's kind of like the womanizing thing.
Yeah.
It's that's more of a Kirk pop culture stereotype than the actual character.
Right.
So, I don't think Kirk would have Kirk would have fought him and Picard would have lectured and then Sisko would have fought him and then, it's that, that kind of thing.
Did you see what Kirk would have done with Balance of Terror? Very similar situation.
Yeah. I compared this episode while watching it to Balance of Terror. It's not directly submarine warfare except for the first ship that they blow up because the Gorn are just what does Magneto say in that awful, the pawns go first in chess.
Yeah. But very submarine, they actually have to dive, and you have the creaking of the ships.
And what I like about this is it, with Deep Space Nine space battles, it's very even. It's not a 3D plane. They're just they're on the left side, they're on the right side, and they're going at it. But space is it's 3D, man. It's 3-dimensional. It's not just 2D. So, and they account for that, and I like that. This episode was super brutal. I don't have a problem with the Trek shows having, blood in them. If you think Trek is too violent, again, conspiracy from Season 1 Next Gen is utterly insane. But it was oh my God, this is brutal stuff. I'm the Khan's granddaughter, what's
Lon.
Lana Del Rey. That's a reference for the kids out there. I don't know who that is, but I think that's a famous person. La'an. Okay. I quite like. I was probably the character I liked the least. Not that it's you're supposed to like this character, but the one I was invested in the least. But,
right.
Oh my God, I can see how you come out that jaded and cynical after being in the today's sponsor Jurassic Park Dominion World, whatever that is, in theaters now. The
critics rave.
The Velociraptors aren't the only dinosaurs we're dredging up from the swamp.
Sam Neill.
Wow. What value? Anyway, so they're in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom being hunted by Blue. I'm making references for our sponsors give us money. But like that entire scene with the mind meld was so brutal, and the like Spock and La'ana. Oh god, La'an.
It almost rhymes with con. It's like con.
Okay, La'an. Was that got me. That was Spock. Spock is a sister now. What's next, a brother? Come on,
Stay tuned.
Come on, Kurtzman. More like Kurtz can't. Because his stuff is bad.
Anyway, so the episode. Oh my god. It was an intense watch, like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, obviously there's another episode, so I know the ship's not going to blow up. It's like,
Is this the end for Pike Crew? Find out next time.
Also, midway through filming season 2.
no, it was canceled. I'm sorry. It was canceled at episode 1 for being too political, and no one watched it. So anyway, I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't show the Gorn, because they mentioned no one's ever seen a Gorn
And lived.
and lived to tell the tale. But I was expecting, like, in a flashback, like, we're gonna see the hit show Gorn Babies. Gorn Babies making dreams come true. But no, we didn't see any Gorn Babies. We didn't see any Gorn. The Gorn captain didn't come up on. They're hailing us, Captain. Yeah, there was none of that. And I think that's actually for the best. I think that actually made them more menacing. Now, I think Enterprise handled the Gorn the best with a big, dumb CGI monster man.
Sure.
That was amazing. What a great quality show. So I will never be invited on this podcast again. So anyway, so I thought that was actually a really good decision, because my primitive monkey man brain's like, I want to see Captain Pike fight one of them some bitches on Enterprise flagship bridge. I want him to go fish cuff. I want to pull out a double shotgun and say, listen here, Gorn, this is our goddamn planet. You come here, brother, you're gonna get shot. And the Gorn goes, and it would be amazing. But I'm glad that the writers resisted that primitive monkey brain urge, and I think it made the Gorn actually more effective. Like, they to blow each other up, because I think Lawn, Lawn, oh, like LAWN,
LA''AN.
Oh my god, that's what the people. That's the problem with millennials. That's what they name their kids. It's like stupid crap like that, like John, but it's 2 H's and 3 E's. Like, your kid's not special. Shut up. Anyway, sorry, I just hate the young. Like, I think she suggested to, like, the Gorn with their own language that the other ship had been boarded, so that they were boarded by the humans or taken over.
Yep.
And then the suspicion of that alone was like, well,
We call the week.
blow them up. And it's like, oh my god, these guys are kind of scary. So they've done more with the Gorn in one episode than Star Trek has done with them in the past 60 years. So that's pretty impressive, I think. Because the Gorn have gone from like basically a joke race to me of the zzz guys to like, oh, these guys are scary, man. Like, I wouldn't want to tango with them. But the Pike maneuver. I like that things have official maneuver names now. They've adopted that meme. I'm here for it. But his like using the black hole as like a slingshot was like that's really like smart stuff. It reminds me of a line from Mass Effect 2 when you open up Grunt's tank and you accept him on board with the crew, and but you have a gun to his chest while he's pinning you against the wall. He says, "You extend one hand and arm the other." Very niche references here at Star Trek Wars. No one's played Mass Effect except for us. So, and it reminded me of that. That's very much kind of Pike's character. And I dig that. Really brutal episode. Great action. Great effects. It's that was tough. It was a tough watch just because you're like, holy crap, it keeps getting worse. One final thing with the initial setup of like this colony's gone missing. I'm like, oh, there's gonna be like when they said there's a monster, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like a single scary, Freddy Krueger villain. It's like, I've destroyed, I always said colonizing planets was bad for you, like that kind of thing. It's like, no, there's something actually scarier than the villain of the Dream Warriors, which is the best of those movies. You can fight me.
Had the best theme song.
Dream Warriors.
We're the Dream Warriors. No one dreams of war.
Yeah, sung by Cobra.
I was like Dawkins or someone. Classic 80s.
You've got the dream. You got the power.
That's Stan Bush.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying.
Within a couple of years of each other, and yeah, I love both.
So anyway, I think that was definitely my favorite of all the episodes. Oh,
Nice.
Oh my God. I didn't mention, I need to mention the Anar, which I might have
Excuse
already
me?
done.
The what?
The Enar. What do they call him? Like,
Enar?
You're an Enar. I'm like, no. Oh, no. No. This is actually Guapo's.
Good Lord.
Guapo's best friend, the Anar. What's his name? Giuseppe. Is that the name of the Anar?
Himmer?
Hemmer Giuseppe, the Anar. They're cousins.
Giuseppe is Hemmer's
Cousin.
Italian cousin.
Yes, exactly. And his stuff with Uhura is becoming one of my favorite characters on this show. I think she's great. And he's amazing. We need more grumpy officers because there's the cat from Lower Decks, Katra,
Dr. Tana?
yeah, Tana, yeah. Okay, not Katra, but I tried.
Sure.
Katra, you bird brain. There's that new She-Ra show. My friends watch that and they reference that a lot. I'm like, oh, I know She-Ra, but that's from and it's a 20-minute toy commercial from the 80s.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I really like the grumpy Anar and the I don't care how they pronounce it. You can't cancel me. I'm speaking my piece. He's amazing and I love him. All the characters, I think there's not like a weak link among them. So everyone's delivering stellar performances and the scripts are so good. I'm like, is there an episode after this where the quality, even if it's really good, like if it drops, and it just seems like it's just continuing to get better. So I'm so excited for season 2 where I hope they really drop the ball.
Hey, there's still the back half of season 1.
Oh, that's right. There's still a season 1. I forgot because
We still have one more to watch today.
what's that one called, perchance?
We'll get into that. But so far, would you say this is now the best first 4 episodes of Star Trek?
No matter the quality of the next episode or the episodes that come after, this is the best season 1 of any Star Trek show.
And just think, if you happen to even just like episode 5, at the very worst, it's a 50% like ratio for the first season.
Yeah, we haven't had a move along home situation.
Yeah.
Which is, oh my God, the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
Code of Honor is way worse than Move Along Home.
Okay, that's true. They don't sing in Code of Honor.
Yeah, that's the problem with that episode.
Alamarang, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know. I think Pike would original series Pike would like that episode because of the line, "A woman." Like he would have loved that.
All right, so they just need one more episode to be 50%.
Yeah, we just need one Code of Honor in this season.
God, no, we don't. No, we don't. Well, are you ready to watch the next one? The final one of the day.
What is it called?
It is called Spock Amok.
I don't know. Is this a Spock's brain thing? Spock Amok?
Spock Amok?
Spock Amok? Great. What's your favorite episode of the new Star Trek? Oh, I love Spock Amok.
Excuse me?
I love Spock Amok. Is it like his liver is taken by some computer to process it, and the Enterprise has to race to get it back in time before he succumbs to alcoholism.
I guess you'll just have to watch and find out.
Okay.
All right, we will be back after watching episode 5, Spock Amok. We'll see what Connor has to say about that one. Okay, we are back from the 5th and final episode today, Spock Amok. Connor, thoughts?
I done love Spock Amok. Spock Amok was
Spock Amok is my favorite episode of this season.
Wow.
So we were talking about this before
the camera started to roll on this high quality movie, this production. You know, because I've been in the production, but I've never been in the show.
Right, we'll let him into where the sausage is made.
Exactly. You know how I'm
Behind the scenes.
an industry insider. Yes. And now you peasants get to hear my delicious royal words.
Okay. So, Spock Amok. What was I talking? Yes. So this episode.
Before we started talking,
before
before we started recording,
Thank you. Before we started recording,
you went into that and forgot that's why you went into that.
you know, look, man.
I'm just living this crazy thing called life, man. I'm carefree.
Connor, get on with it.
Yes, get on with it. So, before we hit the camera,
Don't. This will be the next 20 minutes of just that, and we're never going to get to what you're talking about.
We're in a time loop. We have to find a way to break it. Before we started recording, I was talking to you. I was like, if there's 3 seasons of this show that are of at least like such this kind of consistent quality, like not every episode, like all these have been like 9s from me.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're amazing. And even like there's not like a thing that's like, oh, that's -1 point that keeps from being a 10. Like these are like, no, these are
Just
amazing.
great, yeah.
If there's like 3 seasons of this, and maybe even if there's like a 7 or something, this will be my favorite Star Trek show. I was nervous. I think at around the midway point of the episode, I was like, oh, they're going to do like, oh, one of the ambassadors has a bomb and only Pike and crew can figure out who put it there and how to defuse it. And that would make the episode, I think, kind of boring.
Generic, just.
Yeah. Because we've seen that thing 1,000 times. But I loved this episode. I like they brought back T'Pring. I love the opening where like a very emotional Spock fights his Vulcan half who calls him a big nerd and gives him a wedgie, shoves him in a locker.
An exact setting and music from Amok Time.
Which they know what I want.
Yep.
And I was in my brain going, and then the thing started doing. I was like, oh, I don't have to do that.
No, you did. You actually did it while we were watching Memento Mori.
Oh, that's
because you must say that it was from Arena. Like, God, that's Amok Time. And then you got it at the very next episode.
Yeah, and then I love the cameo from T'Pring's Irish cousin Giuseppe. He's like, crispy frogs, I'm from Vulcan, see? I thought that was great to see one of my favorite all-time Trek characters, Giuseppe. Wait, was that
Giuseppe Pring?
Giuseppe Pring. Anyway, so, but I'm glad they brought T'Pring back because I was a little nervous that she would only be in that first 5 minutes of episode 1, but she's actually really great. I think you got to be a high caliber of acting to be a Vulcan because you have to. A good Vulcan performance is subtly like you're not emoting, but you're emoting, and that is extremely contradictory and hard to pull off.
It is. You have more like passionate emotions that you're hiding.
Yeah,
you're pushing down,
and so that's really that seems like really tough to act. So I think like I have a big respect for Vulcan actors.
Yeah, and she's doing great.
She amazing because T'Pring is how many? She's in Amok Time, and I think
that's it.
Yeah,
and then these 2 that she's been in now. So Yeah, this actor's been T'Pring more than the original T'Pring. So
Yeah.
this is the definitive T'Pring.
So, and I think she's great. This is another thing that this series has done so tastefully, which is bringing back legacy characters, as the kids say.
If you remember Amok Time and what, like where T'Pring was coming from, and I don't know how long it's been since you've seen Amok Time.
It has been a hot minute.
But a lot of the reasons that everything happens in Amok Time are due to the fact that Spock is choosing duty over Starfleet, and T'Pring decides to go a different way because of it. So this is really kind of building into that.
Yeah, I really like that. The negotiations are really interesting. This is, oh my god, I love Pike. The very end where they're like, well, why should we not join Starfleet, or but why should we join
Federation?
Join the Federation? Yeah, and he's like, you shouldn't.
Our dolls are hysterical, and there's too much diversity.
And then okay, he doesn't put it like that, but he's he basically tells them not to, and plays into their fears as to why they shouldn't, and then they do. And it sounds stupid when I put it like that, but it's a really clever gambit on Pike's part. I love this is very lower decks-y.
Mm-hmm.
That's a new word. Put that one in the dictionary. It's very lower decksy, especially with the Enterprise bingo and number one and Lown are like doing stupid stunts. I love this episode actually had us like laughing, and that after the last episode with them, because last time we were laughing at the brother being eaten by dinosaurs. We're like, it's like watching like Friday the 13th and you're like rooting for like all the kids to get murdered. It was exactly like that. But this time we were laughing with the show, which is a key difference. I thought it was a really funny episode. I especially love the good cop, bad cop routine with the ensigns, and like Lon's just like going in on him, and like she's crying, and juxtapose that with number one being like, I was a cadet once too. Like that stuff is absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed this episode. Nurse Chapel is I every time I talk about one of the characters, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite like all the characters are my favorite characters.
Seriously.
Nurse Chapel, who had nothing to do in the original series,
except have a crush on Spock.
Except, well, I mean, don't we all? But I mean, besides, providing, Bones is like, darn it, woman, I need a scalpel. And she can give it to him or whatever he needs, or the occasional bit of like exposition. But other than that, she had nothing to do. But her character in this is really interesting. She's fully three-dimensional, if you will. Kind of a sad character too, especially with her taste in men.
Yeah.
And I thought mine was bad.
And if you know anything about Nurse Chapel, there's not a lot to know, but there is a couple things about, and they kind of go with her relationships in the original series. So yeah, she has a crush on Spock, but then there's also a whole different character that she hasn't met yet that plays a big pivotal role in an original series episode.
Who?
Roger Corby, and it's the episode of What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Ah, yeah, they really could have,
but I believe
renamed that episode.
He's the reason she joined Starfleet, which is why in Strange New Worlds right now she's still a civilian nurse. She hasn't joined Starfleet at this point.
Okay, it's been a while.
Same. That's the episode, most of it's the meme with Kirk in the cave holding a piece of the cave, a phallotype or whatever those cave things are.
I'm sorry, you call it a phallic?
A phylactype?
I think a stalagmite or
yeah,
a stalactite.
exactly.
Yeah. What was that? Gentleman's Thunder? I'm doing callbacks because I'm out of ideas.
That was probably...
Yeah. Because I was like, oh my God. I was like, they called it Gentleman's Thunder. What does that mean?
Name of the episode, baby.
What? That's true. I had a lot of those back in my time, and I don't understand what half of those means. The One Cheek McDougal, that it was a different time, the 60s.
So we have had people asking about you since it's been a while, and one of the main reasons I believe it came from Councilmember Kevin Leung. It was this episode specifically that really interested in hearing what you had to say, and I think it had a lot to do with getting your thoughts on the radical empathy.
Yeah, I loved that. That was something that this is why, to me, like Star Trek stumbles, right? There's some episodes that haven't aged well, or that maybe have something in there that has like maybe acceptable for the time, like that's but nowadays is kind of yikesy, like that with the episode that introduced the Trill, like that kind of stuff is bad, right? But I can forgive Star Trek because I always know that its heart is in the right place. Like Code of Honor is an abomination, but I know that Star Trek isn't like a racist franchise, even if that episode is extremely bad, because its heart is in the right place. And with the radical empathy bit, I think is the core of what works for Star Trek, because I think, especially nowadays, and I'm no exception, it's super easy to be cynical that, with climate change, war in Ukraine, that, imminent fascism rising everywhere, things are kind of terrible.
Season 3 of the Orville.
See, which is worse. I would rather the January 6th insurrection had succeeded than there be another season of that show. And you can quote me, future generations. Oh, so radical empathy.
Before we went into being awful people.
We'll cut that out. No one has to know. Media blackout. So, like things are pretty bad. So I think it's easy for the media that we make to reflect that general cynicism about the future. And I'm not saying that doesn't serve a purpose. I know everyone and their mother brings it up, but like 1984 is one of the most depressing reads around. But I think it's a great read. Unfortunately, the only people who cite it are people who get kicked off of Twitter for saying slurs. But, it's still something I think people should read. So it serves its purpose, but I think we don't need blind optimism. I think we need, radical empathy, I think, is the way to go. Because Star Trek, it's not just like, well, things will get better. This is just the future. Things just work themselves out. It's like, no, you have to make things better. And I think that's the important message of Star Trek is, unfortunately, if we're in, say, the Trek timeline, we're the guys who get nuked and like our kids, fight wars against like pseudo Genghis Khan-esque, genetically modified super conquerors, which is kind of a rough gig, I'll say. But, things get better because, we advance scientifically thanks to a drunk pilot, and, the Vulcans come down. But, Enterprise kind of deals with a humanity that isn't so evolved in its ideas. They'll piss on the tree. They will. And that's the first use of that word on this podcast, and it won't be the last.
Today.
It's your daddy's Star Trek Wars. It's just mine.
Look, the Enterprise... those people, they're not so evolved in their sensibilities as like the TNG crew per se. But, it's not that humanity just becomes, like there's no war, there's no poverty. They choose that. And it's something that they have to work towards. And what Deep Space Nine does, and I think Star Trek kind of stumbles with the newer shows, is the darker side of the Federation. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I think that makes the Federation more interesting and a bit more realistic. But Deep Space Nine never goes full on like the Federation are actually secretly the bad guys. I don't know if you've heard that like really lame take online, but there are people who are like, yeah, the Federation... like the Eddington take. And that's an interesting perspective from Eddington, not from someone who has the knowledge of watching Star Trek shows. because that take is absolutely absurd from an actual person. Interesting from a character. But, this whole, Starfleet, they're actually secretly the bad guys.
They're worse than the Borg.
They're worse than the Borg from actual people is patently absurd from actual people. And I feel with a lot of the new shows, whether it be with Picard, there's it's kind of slavery of the androids. They're quote unquote treated nicely or whatever, but they're still basically a race of slaves, which kind of goes against a lot of Measure of a Man and the themes in that. But the future of Star Trek, to me, it's not about the gadgets and the gizmos. It is about the vision of a future where diversity is celebrated, because that's always been the big mission statement of Star Trek. So I feel like this kind of content, like the Strange New Worlds, is exactly what I think people need, right now.
Yeah.
And it's a show that's, has dark episodes, like the last one we talked about a minute ago, if you're listening to this in chronological order. But with this kind of theme about hope and talking about interpersonal relationships, just topical, real things, is wonderful. And this is why even though this series has not been on for very much, I care about this way more than Picard or Discovery. And those are fine programs. I quite like Discovery. I think I haven't watched all of season 3, but its direction is unique and interesting. And I think that's what Discovery is best at, when it's not trying to do fan servicey, hey, remember this from the original series? Even though most of that is handled well. But with Picard especially, it feels very dour in a way that I don't care for. Hugh's death.
Yeah.
I don't like that they killed off Hugh, but especially in the way they did, it feels incredibly mean-spirited. And I'm not going to say this is the death of Star Trek or anything, but I didn't like it. The Federation has kind of basically become not a recognizable one. And I get the idea, but it feels like the writers of Star Trek for those shows have basically given up on the Trek future. And I think that's incredibly lazy. And so that's something I really dig about Strange New Worlds. So that I don't know if any of that made sense.
It does. It makes me think, can you imagine them trying to make a Strange New Worlds type show set in the Picard era? It almost seems impossible at the way that they have the Federation. I hope they do, because we need to get back to getting that optimism in the post Nemesis era.
Yeah, I know we're not really talking about the episode right now. We'll get to that in a second, I promise. But this is interesting to me. Now, I was thinking about that because the next gen movies. Okay, First Contact is incredible, and that is to me a great Star Trek story as well. It ties in with Picard and his humanity. Check out our review. So I'm not talking about that, but the more I think about those movies, the less I like them. And that is because there's some interesting ideas in those films that are never, they don't focus on personally what I would want in a Star Trek story. They're obsessed with action and spectacle and a car chase in that last one.
Sure.
That's not what Trek fans want. And you can argue that that's lame fodder for easygoing or movie-going folks. But I think most people who even aren't diehard Trekkies, if they're interested in that kind of thing, they want cerebral, storytelling. And to me, the best part of Arena isn't the actual fight choreography between Kirk and the Gorn, as amazing as that is.
Yes.
and I love the clever aspects of Kirk trying to outsmart the Gorn because he can't outfight him physically. But the real meat of that episode is that I won't do it. I won't kill him. Because there's like random gods who just show up.
Metrons.
The Metrons, that's a big thing in the original series, is gas gods who want to interfere with the mortals in their domain. But that's what I get out of that episode. And I feel like that is something that Strange New Worlds is kind of bringing back, which is the classic preachy Star Trek that I crave. I want Star Trek with a message. I want Star Trek that will lecture the audience for 3 minutes about freedom and what it means to be tolerant and kind. And some people say that's lame and that's forcing the message down our throats. I'm like, dude, you know what? Hot take. All media is political. I like media that's about things. I know that's, I guess, a hot take, but I like smart things. Like, the kind of people who are turned off by the first episode because it acknowledged politics are the same kind of people who say that we should keep politics out of video games, and by that they just mean minorities. Meanwhile, they play their favorite game, Fallout New Vegas, the most apolitical game ever made. Just don't think about it at all, please. And I feel like it's ironic that they complained that this new show is too political. Like, you would love Discovery and Picard. Unless you're just, I don't know, you don't like minorities, which, yeah, okay, great. Please do something else with your time other than spewing vitriol on the internet, like competitive toaster bathing. Now, I'm so excited for the show because in the last, how many have we watched? 5?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We've watched 5 episodes, and each one is radically different from the others. This one was kind of a comedy. There's some tragedy in there as well, some sad stuff, but there's a lot of, it feels like a Lower Decks episode in some ways, and in a good way too. I feel Star Trek has a real mixed relationship with humor. Deep Space Nine makes me laugh. The episode where Odo and Quark are stuck on a planet together and Quark is beating up on him, fascist, is one of my favorite Star Trek moments. Anything with Quark and Odo is comedic gold. But with the other shows, I feel that most of the time when you're laughing at the show. You're laughing at Beverly making love to a gas cloud when you're supposed to be like, fascinating. What is going on? Like, I don't know how they imagined people would react to that scene, but not the way they wanted.
You imagine when he's like, "Didn't he light that candle?" People were just like, "This is gonna be hilarious." Like, no, that's not a comedy.
No, this is art. Ship it. But yeah, you brought up, or no, I brought up.
That sounds right.
The movies, and I briefly mentioned my problems with them and why I like how this show is kind of steering away from that. Like, there's big spectacle. But it's not done for the sake of it. And I feel like that's a problem. Like with, I'm sorry, I'm old. I remember all the story details. Okay, there's Nemesis, First Contact. What's the one with where he falls in love with the eternally young?
Insurrection.
Insurrection. I always get that confused with Nemesis. Insurrection. I hate Insurrection. And we've gone over that, of course. But I think, in hindsight, like, just besides the actual story problems with the film, I feel like my biggest problem is that there's action in it. And, Worf has his purple space bazooka and they're blowing stuff up. And I think that's supposed to, because we're lulled to sleep by this boring, generic monstrosity of a film. Because, it's uninteresting. There's some potentially interesting ideas, like the Sona and the Baku being the same people. One just, has too much Botox in their system. Like, that's a interesting idea. But the movie is so focused on, explosions and actions half the time. It's distracting. So they focus all on action. There's no hope. like, especially with Nemesis, I don't have a problem that Data died. But these feel bleak. They're miserable films. Like in hindsight.
Well, looking back at the scores, Connor, I was just checking. Most all of us gave it about a 7, Insurrection. You did give that a 4.
You guys gave it a 7?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I did not like Insurrection at all. And I feel like with the new kind of Trek shows, I feel that they are leaning in to the tone of Insurrection. Obviously, they can't just ignore them. Picard's dealing with the fallout of Insurrection.
Nemesis, too.
I'm sorry, Nemesis is the one I was thinking. I did it again.
Yeah, I know.
But with those, I just don't have fun when I watch them. It's not that I dislike them, but they are so dour.
Did you have fun with Spock Amok?
I had a blast with Spock Amok, but I also learned a thing or two. And that is the Star Trek way. I will mention one sad thing, and then I'll get into the fun of the episode. We're going to talk about Spock Amok, everybody. And that is the Nurse Chapel bit. At the very end, it got me. It feels very relatable. And I was like, oh, honey, what are you doing? So she's talking with Ortega.
Ortegas.
Ortegas, thank you. And she's talking about, that makes the relationship feel too like personal or whatever, or it's
Too real.
something
serious.
like too serious. She said too serious. And Ortegas was like, well, what's wrong with that? You should be more honest. And she's like, and then drinks wine, and then that's it.
Well, as a real song plays to play us out.
Yeah, as Baby Got Back.
Always brings a tear to my eye.
Brings a tear to my eye. As good Christians, we wept, and so did Jesus. Anyway, but that scene was incredibly effective because she didn't monologue about like, and a lot of shows do this where they show and they don't tell. She would have been like, well, I'm damaged. She has a tattoo on her forehead that says
So
damaged, just so we know. It's like, oh, I'm damaged and I can't be honest because of the hurt I feel inside, like or some stupid like monologue like that actually undercuts the tension of the scene and the sadness of the moment by, they're like, well, the audience, they're too dumb. We have to explain that the character is uncomfortable with being personal about their life so that the audience knows that. But they didn't. She said, oh, no. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's brutal, man. So that was great. Anyway, Spock Amok. This episode was a hilarious and yet insightful romp. The word hijinks was used about like 6 times, and I'm here for it as a fan of hijinks and mischief, lollygagging and merriment. I am a fan. So, this episode actually had us like laughing, and I was not expecting that, especially after the last episode. But I love they switch bodies to Pring and Spock, and it was really funny. And I think it takes good writing to not only tell good jokes, but also to do Vulcan humor, because that's very niche. Like, oh, I am, I'm sure, very great at this thing. Like, that
I know how a door works.
Is absolutely fantastic. I love the negotiations, the fruit faces. I don't know what they're called. I don't care to learn, brother. Do you remember what they're called? Okay, the fruit baskets were is that offensive?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The Blue Man Group.
Oh, okay.
The
aliens.
radical empathy people.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll just call them that from now on. They have a solar ship that I liked with the kind of the Bajoran-esque sailboat in space. And I think that is pretty awesome. And they fly the flag of their allies when they make one. And I think that's really awesome. And all the characters get something to do. And this is something that every other series has really struggled with. Maybe except the newer shows, actually. They do this quite well where, you can say what you want about the quality of the programming, but at least the characters get to do things. If you're not even one of the top 3 characters, you still have arcs and conflict. I'm warming up to all these characters at the temperature of a volcano. So I love this show. I think it's fantastic. This is everything I want in a modern Star Trek show. And I hope it only gets preachier and more topical from here out. I want an explicitly political episode where they go to some planet and there's 2 groups of the same race bickering about some stupid current issue where Pike's like, look, idiots. And by idiots, I mean you, humanity. Listen up. That's unironically what I want. I want preachier Star Trek. I want more diverse Trek. And, you know what the next show should have included? Gamers. The most oppressed minority.
Sure.
Please don't quote me on that. Don't take me out of context. Yeah. So we barely talked about the episode, but I feel like the episode speaks for itself.
Whoa.
Yeah. I just blew your minds. Like Romulus.
Well, that's good because you covered basically what we were going to do anyway, was just talk about the 5 episodes as a whole. And I think you covered that pretty good.
Oh, good.
And I would say now, best first 5 episodes of a show.
It's not even a contest to me. I am so excited for this show. I hope we get many more seasons of this. I hope we get 35 seasons of this show.
To the point it makes no sense.
Where they're caught in a time loop and they're basically all the actors 20, 30 years older, and they're just going, hey, remember the time? And that's what I want. I want an episode called Pike Gets an iPhone. It's an actual Simpsons episode called Homer Gets an iPhone. That released 10 years ago. So.
I haven't seen a Simpsons episode since 1998. So.
And they're still coming out with new seasons, folks. Anyway, so great episode. Check out the show if you haven't already.
You know what angle we haven't talked on?
What?
And that's because we have a very special segment. Jocelyn has beamed in to give us her fashion corner. She has not had a chance to talk about Strange New Worlds this year either. So let's just throw it over to Jocelyn real quick for some Star Trek Strange New Worlds fashion.
Get a load of this Spin Doctors mix.
Hello, Star Trek Wars co-hosts, esteemed Patreon council members, and anybody who is here by accident. It is I, Jocelyn, and I am here to talk about something very important that I feel is not being adequately addressed in the serious manner that I think that it deserves. It's probably the most important thing about any Star Trek series, and that is, of course, the fashion. So let's begin. Let's start with Pike, as we should. I knew this show was going to be good from the very beginning when they gave us full-on, hell on wheels, Grizzly Anson Mountain Man to begin with. The beard was so good, and I hate to see it go, but I love to watch it walk away. That makes no sense because it's a beard. However, you get what I'm saying. I love the classic gold uniform. I love the surprise green with leather embellishments uniform to negotiate. Very smart decision. The hair, is it getting too tall? I don't know. I'm sure we're talking about it. I am. It's very Johnny Quest at the moment, and I feel like his hair has enough natural texture that we could let that shine through, maybe if anybody from the show is listening to this for season 2. Moving on to Spock. There's a kind of genius to his hair. He's got the blunt bangs, very Vulcan, but on top, it's also kind of tousled. It's like, hey, yeah, I may be a Vulcan, but I'm also half human, and that makes me dangerous. Anyway, love Spock. Can't get enough. Pro tip for him, though, when you go to talk to your girlfriend about the fact that she's more important to you than your job is, maybe don't wear your uniform. that you wear to your job. I'm just saying. Think about it. Speaking of Spock's girlfriend, she's the winner. She's the winner of fashion. Every time she's on the screen, she wins. Between the shoulder pads, the long lines of leather and like everything she wears, the intricate yet subtle braid work in her hair. I do not know why you should be gagging so. She brings it to you every week. You're welcome. She is like if Cher was a Vulcan and it's 1986. So good. Also, just an aside, why are Vulcans so much hotter than their human versions? when human Spock meets Vulcan Spock, I'm very much on team Vulcan Spock, and I can't explain this to you, but maybe you guys can figure it out. Uhura. I'm here for the eyeshadow. It's almost unnoticeable. It's like that shimmery pink, and it is so... it's great. You know what? It's like her. She's cute, but it's also smart and subtle, and you don't see it coming, and then bam, it's there, and she might be my favorite character. I also love the earrings. I love the earrings. Very Uhura, those earrings. Number one, the I Dream of Jeannie hair. I get it. It's very old school Trek, the long kind of dress top that she wears in this most recent episode is very reminiscent of the miniskirt with boots from the original series without being a miniskirt with boots. Very smart. I am a little concerned about how long her hair is taking her to do in the morning, but maybe there's like a replicator for that. I don't know. The security chief, the boxer braids are great. It says, I take my job seriously and I cannot risk getting a hair in my face during the course of my job. But they don't continue the braids, little House on the Prairie style. They just bring it together in a ponytail because she's like, you know what? I don't have time to follow this through. We just need to end it in a ponytail and get on with our day. And that's very much her. Nurse Chapel, speaking of hair, love the hair. Yes to the hair. Yes to the platinum blonde. Yes to the freckles. Yes to her telling a patient, does this look like a mess hall to you? Because that is my dream. That's my dream. To just look at a patient and say that. Anyway, moving on. Number one dad, MD. Obviously, he's cute. Obviously, he loves his daughter, which makes him even cuter. And then they put a little fishing hat on him and the vest with like the embellished tassels and all the colorful stuff, which may or may not be used to catch fish. I don't know. I'm not a fisherman. Yeah, that did it for me. I sealed the deal. My Star Trek Strange New Worlds dance card is very full at the moment. I don't understand why everybody in the show is so hot. High and Tight, Spaceship Driver Ortegas has the best lines, both in terms of her dialogue and her hair. Sexy Baddie of the Week award goes to the most recent baddie. Yes, she may be comfortable sacrificing children as though they were milkshakes and the planet gets to suck them dry. But her clothes, the metallic jacket with the shoulder pads, that pale pink harness thing with the embossing on it. You think it's too subtle, but it's the whole outfit. And then the pink to red ombre number that she wears for the child milkshake drinking ceremony. Just amazing. Amazing. If you can leave that looking like that, then you do have some pretty strong ethics. So good on Pike. It's very difficult to walk away. And that concludes this fashion edition, space corner, whatever this is being called. Please discuss, enjoy, and I can't wait to talk to you all again. Until then, live long and prosper, computer end program, whatever we're saying now. Let's hit it.
Thank you, Jocelyn. And that'll do it for this week. Connor, I sure hope you come back at the end of the season and we do this again.
I would love to. This is actually a very refreshing format, especially from the old days where we'd watch 5 Star Trek episodes, and by the end of it, we're just miserable and exhausted, and then we do a 3-hour podcast, and then we just crap on Voyager and Enterprise because we all want to sleep.
Just because we're tired.
Yeah.
And they happen to be the last 2 we have to talk about.
Those are the days.
Hey, Star Trek Wars is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and anywhere else fine podcasts are heard. You can also find us on Twitter at the Star Trek Wars. If you want a shirt, hoodie, or mug, head over to redbubble.com or follow the link attached to this episode. Connor, we'll do this again, hopefully 6 through 10 at the end of the season. I love you.
Love you too.
Always thank you for doing this for me and with me, and it's always great to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I love to keep it real.
You definitely keep it real. Our podcast covering Strange New Worlds will return tomorrow for the 6th episode of Strange New Worlds, titled Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach.
Oh my God, these titles.
Until then,
Hidden.
Dynamite!
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.